WTBR-FM, Pittsfield.
Welcome to Ham on WTBR, the all-inclusive ham radio show for hams and non-hams alike. Be part of the show. Contact us on www.facebook.com/HamJamTV. And now the hosts of the show, Peter and Jessica. Ham on.
And here we are again.
Good morning, everybody.
And
good morning.
Susie's back in tow with us.
Oh, cool.
Good morning.
She's actually here for the open of the show this time.
I know.
Live.
I was here early.
We are once again
Today.
live from Berkshire County,
Yep.
Pittsfield, Massachusetts. This is WTBR-FM, and you're listening to Ham On.
Yes, you are.
Today,
Yes.
it's stereo. That was cool.
I know, that was nice.
Today,
Yep,
we're going to talk
Nice.
about HF Nets.
we are.
And later, calling us on the phone will be Ralph Devlin and one LAH.
Can't wait. And
Who's,
talk to Ralph today.
Who I talk to Ralph every day.
Oh, you
who
do?
is
Okay.
the net
All right.
manager for the first region net. And,
Very fancy title.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm net manager for something.
Yeah.
So let's see. What did we do? Everybody have a good New Year.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
our first live show in a while, so we're a little bit behind what we have to do.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, New Year's was great. Why not?
yes.
Ours is pretty good. Went ahead, relaxed, had a little takeout, watching the ball drop,
Perfect. Right?
So, with that being said,
yes.
watching everybody else scramble to go ahead and find their little seats on a webcam in order to see the ball drop.
That's
we're
right.
Like, we're nice and warm.
Exactly.
Well, for me and Mom, Dad, but went to New York.
Cool.
your news is up.
Oh,
My news is off. Yay! Let me see. Do I want to start with... Let me start with the local.
start with local news.
Yeah. The Massachusetts minimum beginning January 2020, yay, so it's already in effect, has increased by 75 cents. It was scheduled to increase even more as the new law was passed in June of 2019. The minimum wage will increase every January until it reaches $15 an hour.
Great.
Cool. Tipped employees will also get a $1.50 raise. So
Very nice.
waitresses and all that will
Sure.
also get an increase. So good
Sure.
for them. It will go from it will go up to is $12.75 as of right now.
As of right now, January 2020, with the 75-cent increase,
Yep.
$12.75. Okay.
It will go up $13.50 in 2021, $14.25 in 2022, and eventually to $15.09 in 2023.
1509.
Okay. Before we get into further news, the trivia question. We'll get this out early today.
It's a burning question.
Besides talking on his ham radio, this famous newscaster spent most of his life talking into a microphone for a living. Who was it? And
I
we'll
mean,
give-
that's a fairly broadly phrased question there, Peter.
yes, it
few-
was.
You know, I mean, it could be any number of people.
Yes, it was.
Excuse me.
My first
So-
thought was Bob Steele, but Peter says no.
No.
No. All right.
I have a few ideas.
Okay, save them for the end. We're not going to give things away right now.
We're not going to give things away right now.
I've been wanting to do this song for a while. It's not an amateur radio song, but it's a CB song, and
Oh, a CB song.
and it does make some people cry. This is from Red Sovine. It's called Teddy Bear. We're going to play that, and then I've got a little bit of history. A little bit of amateur radio history to talk about when we come back. But right now, I want to do this song. This is Teddy Bear by Red Sovine on WTBR FM.
I was on the outskirts of a little southern town, trying to reach my destination before the sun went down. The old CB was blaring away on Channel 19 when there came a little boy's voice on the radio line. And he said, "Breaker 19, is anyone there? Come on back, truckers, and talk to Teddy Bear." Well, I keyed the mic and I said, "You got it, Teddy Bear." And the little boy's voice came back on the air. "Appreciate the break. Who we got on that end?" I told him my handle, and then he began. "Now, I'm not supposed to bother you fellas out there. Mom says you're busy and for me to stay off there. But you see, I get lonely and it helps to talk. 'Cause that's about all I can do. I'm crippled and I can't walk." I came back and told him to fire up that mic, and I'd talk to him as long as he liked. "This was my dad's radio," the little boy said. "But I guess it's mine and Mom's now, 'cause my daddy's dead. Dad had a wreck about a month ago. He was trying to get home in the blinding snow. Mom has to work now to make ends meet, and I'm not much help with my 2 crippled feet. She says not to worry, that we'll make it all right. But I hear her crying sometimes late at night. You know, there's one thing I want more than anything else to see. Oh, I know you guys are too busy to bother with me. But, you see, my dad used to take me for rides when he was home. But I guess that's all over now since my daddy's gone. Not one breaker came on the old CB as that little crippled boy talked with me. I tried hard to swallow a lump that just wouldn't stay down as I thought about my boy back in Greenville town. Dad was going to take Mom and me with him later on this year. Well, I remember him saying, "Someday this old truck will be yours, Teddy Bear." But I know I'll never get to ride an 18-wheeler again. But this old base will keep me in touch with all my trucker friends. Teddy Bear's going to back on out now and leave you alone, 'cause it's about time for Mom to come home. But you give me a shout when you're passing through, and I'll sure be happy to come back to you. Well, I came back and I said, "Before you go, 1010, what's your home 20, little CB friend?" Well, he gave me his address, and I didn't once hesitate, 'cause this hot load of freight is just going to have to wait. I turned that truck around on a dime and headed straight for Jackson Street, 229. And as I rounded the corner, oh, I got one heck of a shock. 18-wheelers were lined up for 3 city blocks. Well, I guess every driver for miles around had caught Teddy Bear's call. And that little crippled boy was having a ball. For as fast as one driver would carry him in, another would carry him to his truck and take off again. Well, you better believe I took my turn at riding Teddy Bear. And then I carried him back in and put him down in his chair. And buddy, if I never live to see happiness again, I want you to know I saw it that day in the face of that little man. We took up a collection for him before his mama got home, and each driver said goodbye, and then they were all gone. He shook my hand with a mile-long grin and said, "So long, trucker. I'll catch you again." Well, I hit that interstate with tears in my eyes. I turned on the radio and I got another surprise. Breaker 19 came a voice on the air. "Just one word of thanks from Mama Teddy Bear. We wish each and every one a special prayer for you, 'cause you just made my little boy's dream come true. I'll sign off now before I start to cry. May God ride with you. 10-4, and goodbye.
Red Sovine, Teddy Bear. From 1970 something. For those who are watching on PCTV, you might notice my partner over here in the green was playing with the fuzzies on her microphone.
I was not playing with the fuzzies on the mic. I was getting the fuzzies off my mic. Every week, I end up with like little fuzzies all over my mic.
For the benefit of those that are not watching on PCTV and listening to us on WTBR, she plays with the fuzzies on her mic during the song breaks. Little wrestling part right there for those for the benefit of flash photography. so this is why it's good to watch the YouTube channel and watch us here live on PCTV as well, because you don't never know what's going to happen in the studio and somebody's going to play with their fuzzies.
I was not playing with the fuzzies. I was getting the fuzzies off the mic.
Meanwhile, Susie's asleep because she can't have caffeine anymore, so she's staring off into space somewhere.
I kind of am, actually. But I'm here now.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
We missed you. It was what?
Just had to put my head down for
two
a moment.
Minutes?
Yeah.
All right, so here's a little piece of history. This is the radio that helped to win the war. We're talking about World War II.
Very interesting.
If there is one radio that is closely associated with World War II, it is the Zenith's Model 7G605. The transoceanic Clipper, introduced only days after Pearl Harbor. The Clipper was not only the first transoceanic radio, but also the first portable radio to offer shortwave bands. Only about 35,000 of them were made before Zenith went to do war work for the U.S. government. Even though they sold for a relatively high price, $75, that's equivalent to $934 in today's money.
Ouch!
Many Clippers were bought by U.S. military personnel who took them into battle zones around the world. Zenith soon began receiving letters telling them of Clippers that had been subject to extreme tropical heat and humidity, sandstorms, enemy bombardments, being dropped into the surf during amphibious landings, and all manner of rough treatment, and had still continued to work. Zenith's Model 7G605 in many of the out-of-the-way places where U.S. troops found themselves, someone's personal Clipper was often the only means of getting news and entertainment from back home. With no Clippers available at any price, considerable ingenuity was used to keep these deployed sets operational. Zenith files contain an account of one Clipper that was successfully repaired using part salvage from a captured enemy radio equipment.
Oh, wow.
It is probably safe to say that wherever U.S. troops served during the war, a Clipper or two was also there serving along with them. So a little piece of history. So we didn't get a chance to do all of this last week for the New Year's Day show, but we're going to do see if anybody has any what happened, the best of and worst of 2019.
Well, I have top 10 video games for all the gamer nerds.
Top 10 video games for all the gamer nerds, which is probably everybody.
Because I am one.
Which is probably everybody in this studio and half the people listening to us at home on WTBR or in the car or watching us on PCTV. So your top 10 games, I don't have any music for it. Your top 10 games of 2019 would be...
Wait, Jess, is this your list that you put together?
Actually, this is a...
Like your favorite?
This is a list from IGN, which is one of the top 10 gaming sites.
I see. Okay. And so they've ranked this as far as popularity or what they think are the best games.
Popularity,
most
sales.
playable. Okay.
Right. Popularity, sales, and genres.
Nice. All right. Well, dive right in. Let's see.
The first one that they say ranked number 1 was Apex Legends. It was released February 4 for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. is pretty much a overall battle royale gaming
from the people who do Titanfall.
Yes, from the people who do Respawn. It's kind of like a mixture of Titanfall and Rainbow Six.
Go on.
Next would be Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Of course. It was released October 25th.
Is that your birthday?
Yep. On PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Of course, we all know what Call of Duty is. Call of Duty would go ahead and be...
It's like a shoot-'em-up game.
Yep. It would be an online shooting. It would be online shooting where your team goes against another team in an all-out battle of supremacy. And of course it goes back to the original Modern Warfare. It's like a repeat of Modern Warfare. Devil May Cry 5.
Okay, the people who own the games already know what they are. So just go ahead and read the list.
Yeah, just read the list. Yeah,
which is pretty cool. I heard the series is really cool. And that was March 8th. Fire Emblem 3 Houses, which is an anime JRPG turn-based video game.
Cool. Sounds good. I don't really play video games. I mean, I'm interested in this list though.
Kingdom Hearts 3. Yay. Which was a mashup between Square Enix and Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all the Disney worlds and everything on that. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for Switch. Nice going. Life is Strange 2. Which, again, is one of those, you make your own choice kind of one. Luigi's Mansion 3. Sweet.
Do you like that one?
Yes. It's, Mario Brothers kind of one where he goes ahead and investigates haunted houses and
Ooh,
stuff.
Fun.
Monster Hunter World Iceborne. When
Ice monsters?
Yeah, kind of like a MMORPG kind of scenario there, where you hunt down monsters. And of course, Mortal Kombat 11.
11?
Yes.
I played Mortal Kombat in college.
Yeah, I know.
I was really good at it. It was the only one.
That was one of my first fighting games. That was one of the first fighting games I got into besides Street Fighter.
Oh, maybe it was Street Fighter that I played back in the day. It was a long time ago.
But yeah, I can't believe Mortal Kombat is actually comes out with their 11 one.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's the staying power.
Was that your list?
Yeah, so it's a list of
that was
top
cool.
Games.
All right, so we will be back after we come back out of commercial.
The biggest one out of the list was Apex Legends. That was one of their biggest. The second one was Call of Duty.
Okay. So after we come back out of commercial, we're going to have I have a little article here. It says U.S. tests ways to sweep space clean of radiation after nuclear attack. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Right now, we're going to go to the commercial break.
You're listening to Ham On and WTBR.
It's time to let old things die. Snoke, Skywalker, the Sith, the Jedi, the Rebels, let it all die.
The Happy Club at the Ralph Royal Senior Center, located at 330 North Street, Pittsfield, is a respite program for caregivers. Seniors who are facing various challenges will enjoy the devoted staff provides a safe and comfortable setting while playing games, dancing, exercising, attending field trips, and special events. Van transportation is available. Please call 413-499-9346 for more information.
They're your friends. They're your neighbors. They're even famous entertainers. They're teachers.
Okay, class, settle down. Open your books.
They're scientists and astronauts. They're hams. They're 650,000 strong, and they're just like you. Earning your amateur radio license is easy. Just contact the American Radio Relay League at 1-800-326-3942.
WTBR radar weather for the Pittsfield area. Today, mostly cloudy. A chance of snow showers this morning, then snow showers likely this afternoon. Snow may be heavy at times this afternoon. Total snow accumulation around an inch. Highs in the mid-30s. Temperature falling into the upper 20s this afternoon. West wind 15 to 20 miles per hour. Gusts up to 40 miles per hour this afternoon. Chance of snow 60%. Tonight, mostly cloudy in the evening, then clearing. Much colder with lows around 8 above. Northwest wind 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Wind chill values as low as 12 below after midnight. Thursday, sunny, colder with highs in the lower 20s. Northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wind chill values as low as 10 below in the morning. Weather forecasts for WTBR FM are provided by the National Weather Service.
Hi, this is Joe Elliott from Def Leppard for RAD. Planning on going out and having a party? Great, have a lot of fun. But do me a big favour and don't blow it. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives. You should too.
A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
I failed you, Ben. I'm sorry. I'm sure you are. The resistance is dead. The war is over. And when I kill you, I will have killed the last Jedi.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong. The rebellion is reborn today. The war is just beginning. And I will not be the last Jedi.
Of course he wasn't the last Jedi.
Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren from The Last Jedi. Since Rise of Skywalker, which is the 9th installment into the Skywalker saga for Star Wars. 40 years of it going on, and it's really doing well. So we're going to do this. U.S. tests ways to sweep space clean of radiation after nuclear attack. The U.S. military thought it had cleared the decks when on 9 July 1962 it heaved a 1.4 megaton nuclear bomb some 400 kilometers into space. Orbiting satellites were safely out of range of this blast. But in the months that followed the test, called Starfish Prime, satellites began to wink out one by one, including the world's first communication satellite, Telstar. This was an unexpected after effect. High-energy electrons shed by radioactive debris and trapped by the Earth's magnetic field were fritzing out the satellite's electronics and solar panels. Starfish Prime and similar Soviet tests might be...
Is that like Optimus Prime?
Well, I had the same thought, and you just put it into words, so there you go. I don't think it is like Optimus Prime.
Anyway,
yes.
Starfish Prime and similar Soviet tests might be dismissed as Cold War misadventures, never to be repeated. After all, what nuclear power would want to pollute space with particles that could take out its own satellites, critical for communication, navigation, and surveillance? But military planners feel North Korea might be an exception. It has nuclear weapons, but not a single functioning satellite among the thousands now in orbit. They quietly refer to a surprise orbit blast as a potential Pearl Harbor of space. And so without fanfare, defense scientists are trying to devise a cure. 3 space experiments, 1 now in orbit and 2 being ready for launch in 2021, aim to gather data on how to drain high-energy electrons out of the radiation belts. The process, called radiation belt remediation, RBR, already happens naturally when radio waves from deep space or from Earth or our own radio chatter, for example, or emissions from lightning knock electrons trapped in Earth's Van Allen radiation belts into the upper atmosphere. where they quickly shed and triggering Aurora.
Oh, wow.
So there. That's why there's a lot of thing about did we actually go to the moon, because did we really clear how did they figure out about clearing the Van Allen radiation belt in the 1960s?
That's true.
So, let's see, what are we going to do here? HF nets, a fun part of amateur radio, and if you're on shortwave, you can hear these are HF nets. There's a few traffic nets, rag chew nets. I'm involved in a few. Like
a few,
quote unquote. The main potato net, which runs 7 days a week on 39.58 at 4:30, is a rag chew net. You can check into that. You have to have at least a general license to do that.
Rag chew, for those who are not hams, rag chew.
For non-initiates.
For non-initiates, what we're doing right now. This is rag chewing.
Yeah. Oh, just so generalized talking
Killing
without
time.
a subject.
Yeah.
Chatting.
And then there's the traffic nets. Now, we're all aware, at least most of us here in Berkshire County and eastern New York are aware of the 2 meter nets, K1 FFK up on top of Mount Greylock. We have a 2 meter net, cycle 1, cycle 2, the Western Mass traffic net. There's also a hospital net on it.
Oh, cool.
But we have HF nets. And because in order for me to get traffic to cycle 1, cycle 2 of the Western Mass traffic net, you have to get it from somewhere. Where do we get it from is HF nets. I check into, and Ralph, who will be on the air here in a little while, we do the first region net, which includes Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and of course Massachusetts. And from there we go to the Eastern Area Net, which I'll also be doing this afternoon, which takes our stuff from the first region net and puts it into the Eastern Call District, and then out to every call district has a net.
So that's when you and Marsha, or you and James, or whoever, go ahead and pass the traffic back and forth. Right?
Yeah, every call district has a net. They'll call the net up, and you'll hear everybody in there. There'll be somebody from 4th region, which is like Pennsylvania, Florida.
Oh, really?
5th region into Central, which is Chicago and those states there, and then somebody from there will go to. We even have a Pacific rep from the West Coast that will check in and get traffic there. So that's how we kind of pass traffic. The ARRL helps put these nets together. Net managers, their job is to maintain the staffing of these nets.
Which is all volunteer.
Everything's volunteer in amateur radio.
I know. I'm just underlining that.
Yeah, it's all volunteer. But net managers, we take care of the staffing, make sure the nets are staffed. If somebody doesn't show up to do their thing, then you would jump on and take over the net.
So are you a moderator?
No, not moderator, because we actually, net managers they oversee. So we'll have an NCS that will take the net, but the net manager, Susie's got to work Monday at 2:30. Jesse's got to work, Wednesday at 2:30, and we get all the reports in. We send all the reports at the end of the month of how many check-ins we got and how many traffic we passed, and we send that to the section traffic manager, in this case, Marcia, KW1U. And
how is she appointed?
She's appointed through the section manager.
Mm-hmm. Like she puts her name in, or does somebody reach out and say, Marcia, I like your style?
Marcia was here, and I guess the one before her who did it decided to retire, and he said, you should take section traffic manager. So she got appointed, but I think she didn't get appointed by Ray, KB1LRL. She got appointed by. This is kind of weird because she got appointed by the Eastern Massachusetts section manager.
Okay.
So, most sections, each section usually has its own section traffic manager. So, Marcia is kind of section traffic manager for both East and West Mass.
Okay.
Where most section, like if you're in Eastern New York, we have a section manager for Eastern New York. That's WO2H, Mike Shanahan.
Okay.
And then Southern New York, there's another section manager. But in this case, Marcia is a section traffic manager for the entire state of Massachusetts.
Wow. It's a
where
big job,
Mike
Marcia.
Shanahan, if he's listening, or
hey, Mike, if you're listening.
there's that. Okay, go to your thing. I gotta.
Okay.
Let me see.
WTBR.
Cosmic ray update. Radiation is at its 5-year high for cosmic radiation. Something ironic is having in Earth's atmosphere. Solar activity is low or very low, yet an atmospheric radiation is leading into the opposite direction. Cosmic rays percolate through the air around us are at a 5-year high and only percentage points away from a space age record.
Okay.
That's saying something.
And just so we know, I was going to save this off there, but our little thing blinks now again, so we actually we can actually see it. So we have on the phone
our strobe light's back.
Our strobe light's back. Yes, it is. It's nice to have our strobe light back. On the phone with us from the eastern part of Massachusetts is our net manager for the First Region Net, Ralph Devlin, N1LAH. Ralph, thank you and welcome to WTBR FM. You're on Ham On.
Good morning, Peter. How are you this morning?
I am good. So it's nice to have you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks,
and
Ralph.
Let's start off with
morning, sir.
Tell us a little bit. Oh yeah, you have. Let me give you the cast and crew here. We have Jessica, who's not the ham.
Morning, sir.
But my daughter, who's co-host, and our groupie here, and our second co-host,
That's
Susie,
right.
who is a ham.
I am the ham.
KC1
LIW. Yeah, that's me. It's a mouthful.
So, Raph, let's start off with tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let me see. I first got my first ham license when I was in high school, and that was in the mid-'50s.
Okay.
I let that license go, but I've always had an interest in radio, and particularly two-way radio. So through all those years of growing up, I would monitor fire, police, marine radio, the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
In 1991, my son, who was then 9 years old, expressed an interest in ham radio, and so we studied together, and we both got licensed, me for the second time and him for the first time. And since then, I've been active primarily doing public service events, which is ham radio operators supporting things like charitable fundraisers, marathons, 10K runs, bike-a-thons, that sort of thing. And oftentimes those events will have a ham radio operator at every water station and every first aid station. And so I've done that quite frequently, not so much lately because my body doesn't allow it. And then handling messages in the national traffic system. One of the things that ham radio operators have been doing from the very beginning is voluntarily relaying messages from one person to another, not just amateur radio operators, but anybody who would ask a ham radio operator to send a message to somebody. And for years, that was kind of catch as catch can, because I might have a message here from eastern Massachusetts for someone in Chicago, and without some organization, I would have to get on the radio and essentially ask, is there anybody out there from Chicago who can take this message for me? And so that became much more organized during World War II, and then in 1949 an official structure was created whereby at published times and on published frequencies, hams would agree to meet, commit to meet, and be ready to pick up messages for relay, or having a message to relay it to its addressee. And so that's what I spend much of my time doing. In order for this system to work, it's kind of a multi-level system. So, for example, if somebody in Pittsfield, some neighbor of yours, wanted to send a message to somebody in Chicago, they might call a local ham in Pittsfield and ask that ham relay the message. And that ham would check into what we call a net, which is a fixed time and frequency where all other hams have agreed to be.
Nice.
And would get on that frequency and say, I have a message for Chicago. And then somebody on the net would volunteer, often in your case on the Mount Greylock Western Mass traffic net, it would be Peter.
Oh, there he is. I'm looking right at him.
Volunteer.
He's famous.
To take that message and to move it up the chain, if you will.
What a nice guy.
Yeah. And so the next step in the chain would either be what we call a section. The Greylock is local net. Then there's what's called a section net, which is a net or a group of people covering a wider area. In our case, it's Eastern, Western Mass, and Rhode Island, and would bring the message to that net or skip that level and later on in the afternoon check into a net which covers all of New England. It would relay that message to a station in that net who would then bring it up to the next level, which is a net that covers all of the East Coast and Eastern Canada. And then someone from that net would bring it to a central United States net, and it would be relayed then down the same kind of levels until somebody in Chicago gets the message and calls the addressee. Because these nets are scheduled the way they are, ideally the message will get from Pittsfield to Chicago in less than a day. Of course, nothing's perfect, but that's.
That would be the ideal.
He mentions Mount Greylock, K1FFK, but also on Sunday nights I NCS for the Heavy Hitters Traffic Net, which is over in Eastern Mass. So I'm always busy. So you're net manager for First Region Net, and I'm going to
negative. No, I'm net manager for the Massachusetts Rhode Island.
See, I've been wrong all this time.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us because I tried to explain it a little bit. I don't know everything. Don't look at me like that. I learn something here every day.
This is why we do this.
We learned things from Marsha when she was on the radio.
Right.
A couple of weeks ago, we had John here, K1UAF, so we're getting the whole crew in here.
Very
now
cool.
I just got to get Betsy in here, and it'll be K1EIC. But, Ralph, tell us a little bit about Mass Rhode Island, your net manager duties for Mass Rhode Island. And
I'd like to know how it became the Mass Rhode Island. How did that?
Well, it has an interesting history. It used to be just Eastern Mass in Rhode Island, which is kind of geographically quite reasonable since Rhode Island looks like a piece of Eastern Mass on a map. And then over time, that net just kind of wilted on the vine. Partly, I think, because the participants aged out, and partly because we've always struggled with what's the best time for that net, because you want to have it after the last meeting of the region net, which is the higher level, and before the meeting of the local net. But then now you're talking supper time. And so the net kind of wilted. And then 3.5 years ago, I spoke with Marsha, whom we've had on the show, and she's, in terms of the structure, she's the one that's in charge for Eastern Massachusetts of essentially making sure the whole system works. So I spoke to her, and we agreed to reactivate the Mass Rhode Island phone net, but we couldn't, what was then Eastern Mass, but we were really thin on stations from Western Massachusetts. And so the traffic manager from Western Mass and Marcia had a conversation, and we made it the Mass Rhode Island phone net.
Okay, I think I just got tossed under the bus because when you said thin on Western Mass people, I got looks from across the desk here.
Anyway, well, Western Mass is pretty thin in general.
Well, but understand, to those of us here on the coast, Western Mass begins about Framingham, or certainly Worcester at the worst.
Right? I find that so confounding. Like Springfield to me is not even really Western Mass, even though that's what it's called.
Hey, when you come from Eastern
New
York,
my son lives in Greenfield.
Oh, okay. Now we're starting to get into Western Mass.
And he uses the river. In his mind, that's the boundary.
That's the boundary right there.
So anyhow, so we reactivated the Mass Rhode Island phone net.
Nice.
At 6 o'clock at night.
There you go.
But because we were so thin in terms of horsepower, it's only 3 nights a week. But it's the 3 nights when there is no heavy hitters traffic net that Peter knows so much about, and into which I check occasionally. So 7 days a week, we actually do have something at that intermediate level.
Oh, that's great.
That's where all my N1IQI traffic goes, is heavy hitters traffic now.
Oh, okay.
That's right. But you're always welcome on the Mass Rhode Island phone net, Peter. We'll take it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have that. I have a little notepad. I actually have that on, and I kind of keep forgetting to check into that.
Remember, we changed times.
Yeah, I know. Because I NCS on Sunday nights for Heavy Hitters Traffic Net. So the end of our post-amble has the times. Check into the Mass Rhode Island phone net,
great.
And we changed the times. W1HAI.
Yeah,
Joe sent me an email, said change the times to 5 o'clock. But I already knew that because Ralph had actually announced that up on FRN, up on the first region net. So I was like the first one to actually remind Joe the time changed.
Yeah. And of course, Joe and I don't even need a radio. We can open the window and shout to each other.
Oh, wow.
So as net manager, because I know because I'm net manager for Cycle 1 of the Western Mass Traffic Net, I have to keep thinking, because I'm assistant section traffic manager, because I'm responsible for everything from here to Worcester. But net manager for Cycle 1 of the Western Mass Traffic Net. So as net manager for the people that don't know that's listening to us on WTBR FM, what is a net manager's duty, especially on a wide area HF net?
That's right.
Well,
that's what I want to know.
There are several. The first thing is to make sure that you've recruited enough volunteers to staff the net, so that there is somebody every time there's supposed to be a net. There is someone who will call the net on the radio and kind of announce it, open it up for traffic.
Has that been a challenge, recruiting the volunteers?
Well, when you're only doing 3 days a week, and I'm I'm not going to totally let go.
Yeah.
So I do one night, and other people do the other 2 nights.
Okay.
For some reason, and Peter and I can remember when we first started doing this, people are a little reluctant to pick up the microphone and be the control operator for a net. And once they get into it, you can't shut us up.
That's right. But that initial...
My wife is perfect example. I got her to do Sunday night or Sunday at 1 o'clock on Western Mass Traffic Net. And the first couple of times she's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe okay. Yeah. Now she just rattles off the script and she's got it right down to a science now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to making sure that there is a net every time it's scheduled, because nothing discourages participation more than people listening and not hearing anything.
Correct.
So if someone sets aside the time to participate in a net, and then there's no net control station to call the net, it's not good for volunteerism.
Sure.
But the next responsibility is to keep records of each session that the net meets. In my case, it's usually 13 or 14 times a month because there are only 3 days a week. And then report how many stations checked in, how many messages were handled, how long it took to report that up to the next level, which in our case is the section traffic manager for me, And so I'll send a message to Marcia, KW1U, and at the end of the month and tell her how many sessions we had, how many stations checked in, how many messages we handled, and what the total time was. And then some of the number type people then keep track of what we call net efficiency. How many messages were passed and how many minutes did it take? And the perfectionists, try to do it as efficiently and quickly as possible. So a high message-to-time ratio is considered very desirable. The next level up, which is the first region net that Peter checks into and I check into a couple of days a week, the net manager is a station in Connecticut, K1EIC. She's the manager of that net, and so she's responsible for keeping track of those records. And anytime one of us leads the net as the net control station, we send a report to the manager, and then that gets reported up the line, and up the line again until there's at the national headquarters in Connecticut, there is somebody who consolidates all that data to kind of measure participation and efficiency and that sort of thing.
And which is kind of leading into my next question, because when we do these reports, Marcia sends and Betsy, they all send the reports down to the league. And especially at the end of the month, you do the PSHR, which we'll get into a little bit after commercial, and the SARs, but the traffic numbers, and you actually see yourself, because I see myself plenty of times published in QST, but all these numbers go into the ARRL, and they keep I guess they keep a database on it or something, and see how efficient the nets are running.
Exactly. And, some of us, we all like to get an attaboy occasionally. So if you check into enough nets and or handle enough messages, then you do get listed in the QST magazine every month. I don't run a digital station. There are some people, Marcia among them, and I don't know, Peter, if you run a digital station or not.
No, I'm still waiting for Marcia to give me all the software stuff on that.
Oh, okay.
I have the ability.
But those folks, they rack up points all the time because their digital station is on the air all the time, and they just pick up messages, so their scores. If anyone looks at QST magazine, I'm sure there are 3 of us on this call who do, and probably no one else.
Yeah, right.
Can see the number of points, and the digital stations, N1IQI, KW1U, for 2, for example, have lots of points because their station is essentially 24/7. They don't have nets per se.
Right.
Traffic just comes.
Traffic just comes.
We're going to go to a commercial here, but when we come back, Ralph can tell us about digital stations.
Nice.
And put out.
That won't take long.
Yeah.
And
right.
we'll do a little bit of that. So we will be back here in just a few minutes.
Nice.
Okay. Standing by.
Thank you, Ralph.
You're listening to Ham On and WTR.
Well, you tell him that Han Solo just stole back the Millennium Falcon for good.
This is a Millennium Falcon. You're Han Solo.
I used to be.
I can't take it anymore.
I need to get away.
There's too much to handle.
Being a teenager is tough. Family, teachers, friends, life. The stress can be overwhelming. It's only natural to want to escape.
Things are so hard right now.
I have to get out of here.
Sometimes running away seems like the only choice, but it can be dangerous, and definitely not what you expected. National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. Call 1-800-RUNAWAY.
Running away is nothing like I imagined.
I don't know what to do.
Whether you've recently run away, thinking about it, or are a concerned parent or guardian, call 1-800-RUNAWAY. National Runaway Switchboard is free, confidential, available 24 hours a day, offering support and guidance now to get you through this tough time.
1-800-RUNAWAY was there for me.
Thanks, 1-800-RUNAWAY.
I'm glad I called.
Work can be fun, but it isn't fun if you get hurt on the job. Wear the proper safety equipment. When you're working outside, drink plenty of water, and don't be afraid to ask for help from your coworkers. Remember, your boss is responsible for your safety. Know your limits and your rights. Work hard and be safe. For more information, visit OSHA.gov or call 800-321-OSHA.
A message from the U.S. Department of Labor.
WTBR radar weather for the Pittsfield area. Today, mostly cloudy. A chance of snow showers this morning, then snow showers likely this afternoon. Snow may be heavy at times this afternoon. Total snow accumulation around an inch. Highs in the mid-30s. Temperature falling into the upper 20s this afternoon. West wind 15 to 20 miles per hour. Gusts up to 40 miles per hour this afternoon. Chance of snow 60%. Tonight, mostly cloudy in the evening, then clearing. Much colder with lows around 8 above. Northwest wind 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Wind chill values as low as 12 below after midnight. Thursday, sunny, colder with highs in the lower 20s. Northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wind chill values as low as 10 below in the morning. Weather forecasts for WTBR-FM are provided by the National Weather Service.
Excuse me, why are you saving those old eyeglasses? You know the ones. Stuck away in the desk drawer. Haven't been worn in years. Yeah, those. You should donate them to your local Lions Club. Lions Clubs have been collecting used eyeglasses for years. They'll take your old eyeglasses and recycle them for someone in need of proper eyewear. Call your local Lions Club for information on where you can donate your old eyeglasses. Lions Clubs International. We serve.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
And welcome back to Ham on WTBR FM. We are talking with Ralph Devlin, N1LAH, the net manager for the Mass Rhode Island phone net. And Betsy's going to kill me if she hears this because I forgot. Welcome back to WTBR. And Ralph, you were going to tell us about digital stations.
Nice.
Well, first of all, let me back up and say that the first digital communication was probably the Morse code. And by digital, all we mean is some kind of a sequence of off and on. But with increased technology, excuse me, ham radio operators have developed almost on parallel with commercial operators, but sometimes ahead of commercial operators, different ways of sending messages digitally rather than by voice. And so it's if you're listening on the radio, it sounds but like a variety of things. Sometimes it sounds like a warble. Sometimes it sounds like a kind of thing. But through a computer, that stuff can be decoded into letters and words. And by the way, the advantage of that to those who play that kind of a game is that despite background noise and static, digital signals can get through better than voice signals. And a number of these, we call them protocols, but methods, algorithms for transferring voice to code to digital signals, back to digital signals, back to voice or back to code. A number of those systems have an automatic way of requesting corrections, so that a message is sent from a source, and if the receiving software confirms what it heard, and if that's not right, then the sending station repeats the message over and over again until it's confirmed. Now, another advantage to this, aside from getting through poor conditions,
right,
is that you can leave your station on the air all the time because you don't need to be there.
Right.
The computer is there, and so a lot of traffic, a lot of the long distance and international traffic comes digitally across the Atlantic or across the Pacific to a digital station, and then the operator of that station will then forward the message to wherever it should go. Eastern Mass, Western Mass, Chicago, Texas, what have you. And so Peter and I both have handled traffic from a station in Germany, Delta Lima 4 Foxtrot November, and he gets his messages from Germany to this country using a particular digital format called PACTOR, which is an abbreviation for something, to KW1U, who has a PACTOR station, and her station is always tuned to a certain frequency that Peter knows that she's listening, even if she's not there, but her computer is listening. And then Marsha will then take that message and she'll route it. If it's a local message, she'll bring it to one of our local nets. If it's a message for somewhere on the East Coast, not locally, she'll bring it to the appropriate area net, the East Coast, Eastern area net, and so forth. And the digital, among the things, well, as you know, ham operators have a number of sub-hobbies, if you will. Some are experimenters, some are designers.
Some have radio shows on Broadcast FM.
Some do.
Correct. Correct.
And I know of two.
Yeah.
Some build their own equipment. Some just use the radio for happenstance communication. Some people get a real kick out of getting as many contacts as they can in a fixed period of time. There's all different kinds of interests. My interest has always been public service and message relaying.
Nice.
Although I have from time to time just gotten on the air and sent out a general call and to see if anybody's listening on the right frequency.
Right.
Because we have so many frequencies that we can operate on. You could have hundreds of stations calling, but nobody listening on the right frequency. Which is one of the reasons why for traffic handling we schedule nets at a certain time and place. Everybody knows, for example, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a frequency of 3948 kilohertz, the first region net is going to be there. But in general, without that kind of discipline, it's kind of like going fishing. You throw your hook into the water and you might catch a fish or you might not.
Right.
Whereas with digital, with automatic digital, someone's always listening if you know what the frequency is.
So with 3 minutes left in the program, this hour flies by so quick.
Yeah, it really does.
Ralph, any websites you want to put out? Any last minute